Today I'm going to show you how to install the inner and outer socket on 3 different models of shear wrenches. There are 3 different methods, and I'll go over each one. So the tools that you're going to need for each one of these methods of installing that inner and outer socket into the tool is definitely a screwdriver. One of the other methods, you're going to need a TC bolt, and you'll see that later on in the video. And you're always going to need the inner and outer socket for whatever size diameter bolt that you're going to be using. The first method I'm going to show you with installing the inner and outer socket is going to be done using the GS111, and this method is probably the easiest method to do. Essentially, you're just going to make sure first that all of your set screws are out so that you can actually get the sockets inside the outer socket holder. And then you're going to just take the ejector pin and push it all the way down. Now you want to be careful because if you hit this lever down here, the ejector pin will actually shoot out and it could cause some injuries. So make sure you don't hit that ejector pin lever. Then you're going to take your inner socket and put it in until it goes in as far as it will go, and then you got to put your finger in the middle of it and press down that pressure plate that's in there, and then the inner socket will go all the way down. While holding it, take your outer socket, put that over while continuing to hold the inner socket, and turn this around until it actually seats and is flush. At this point, you can let go of that inner socket and then keep hold of the outer socket, keep pushing that downward, and then tighten one of your set screws. Now you can let go, turn it around, and do the other set screw. Now once that's done, you want to make sure that you release that ejector pin by pushing this lever right here, and you can hear it come out, and then you're ready to use the tool. So the second method that I'm going to show you is using a TC bolt and installing the inner and outer socket into a GX361. So you'll start by making sure that your set screws are all the way out, or not all the way out, but out just enough so you can get the sockets past them. Then you'll take your inner socket and place that in the outer socket holder. And once you have the inner socket in, you can take the outer socket, put that over it, and then you can take your TC bolt and stick that in the inner socket hole until your outer socket, you can see, is flush with the outer socket holder. Pull that out. Then you can tighten one of the set screws while holding down that outer socket, and then you can let go and move on and tighten that second one. And then you want to release that ejector pin, hitting the lever right here. And now it's ready to go. So the last method I'm going to show you on how to install your inner and outer sockets onto a shear wrench is going to be done on a GHC241. This is our minimal clearance tool. And I want to point out with these sockets, sometimes the inner socket gets stuck inside the outer socket. There's a little pressure plate inside the inner socket that you can just push, and then it releases the inner socket from the outer socket. So you're going to start by taking your inner socket, putting it in the tool, and then sticking it down in there until it falls down into those grooves inside the tool. Once you're in there, it only goes so far, so you want to take your finger and you want to push that pressure plate down even more. And then while continuing to hold that down, you want to take your outer socket, place it over it like that, and then you want to stick your other hand and finger into the inner socket, and then continuing to hold it down until that outer socket falls down over. all the little notches here. Now you can let go of that inner socket, but continue to apply pressure on that outer socket so it doesn't become or lift up from this outer socket here. You need those flush before you can set tighten the set screws. So while holding that down, just tighten the first set screw. Once that one's tight, you can let go of that outer socket and it'll stay in place. And then tighten the other one. And then you want to hit this button right here to release that ejector pin. And now you're ready to use the tool. And this is Danny's Repair Corner. Fanny Durlong's Repair Corner.
Welcome to Dan's Repair Corner. We're down here fixing stuff.
We're just giving her more stuff she has to edit out.